Hey YouTube, how is it going today? Well, in this video I want to talk about Humbl Incorporated, ticker symbol HMBL. It's been a little bit since I've done an update video on this company, and they have since launched their exchange traded indexes, and I want to go over that. Plus, their chart is at a very critical juncture, so I want to get into their chart and tell you what I think could be coming next. And then after that, I have some other nice looking charts to show you. Now, if you're new to my channel, I like to trade and invest using mostly technical analysis. If that's something that interests you, please consider subscribing to my channel so you don't miss any future trading or investing ideas. And I also have my Patreon group linked in the description. In my Patreon, I talk about the trades I'm looking at and the ones I'm taking. And I also do a live stream in the Discord every morning if you want to ask me any questions directly or see what I'm day trading. Well, since I did my last video, Humbl Incorporated launched its block exchange traded indexes, or ETXs, in over 100 countries across North America, Latin America, Asia, the Middle East, Africa, and the Caribbean. The initial block ETXs include Block 3, Block 5, Block 10, Block Government, Block Platform, Block Global Enterprise, Block RSI, Block MACD and VI, and Block Oscillators. The block ETX lines were created by Humbl Financial to give retail investors access to one-click software services on the new digital asset trading markets. The block ETXs track 3 different vertical themes: index, active, and thematic strategies, allowing customers simplified portfolio exposure to new blockchain trading markets. These block ETXs are not intended to be investment services or advice, but rather are completely non-custodial, algorithmically driven financial technology services that allow customers to purchase and hold digital assets in preset allocations through their own exchange accounts. Brian Foote, Humbl's CEO, says, "Our long-term mission at Humbl is to develop a Web3 platform that will allow you to invest, trade, track, and pay in more synthetic ways on the blockchain. The block ETXs are a critical step in that journey and will expand across multiple asset types in the coming years. And Humbl Financial is also open to the licensing of block indexes and block ETXs to major global financial institutions that may want to expand their digital asset offerings for customers immediately." Alright, so let's jump over to my TC2000 charting software and get a look at the current price action. But before I get started, if you could give me a thumbs up, that would greatly help out the video in the YouTube algorithm. And if you don't want to do it for me, do it for Humbl. Let's give Humbl a boost in the YouTube algorithm. Either way, I would appreciate it. But let's get into this current price action. As we can see, Humbl is starting to fade a little bit. It's starting to put pressure on this support area right around $2.90 or so. It did break down below it in mid-March, jumped right back above those moving averages, and looked like it was getting ready to take off, but it has since started to drift down a little bit. And let's go intraday and take a look at the current price action, especially that ever so important support area. If we draw that line on the chart, we can see it's right around 285, 290 or so, and is getting dangerously close as I am making this video. And let's put a trend line on these peaks as well, and we can see that it is starting to make one of those triangle consolidations. Normally that's actually pretty bullish, but when the triangle goes this far out, it usually ends up in a breakdown. And that's the way I think this one is probably going to end up. Now, if you're a long-term shareholder in this company, lower prices means another great buying opportunity, and this company does have some pretty exciting products. By the way, if any of you have used any of those ETXs, let me know down there in the comments section. How do they work? How do you like them so far? Have you made any money using them? Or would you recommend them to other people? Because I haven't used one yet, but they look like they're pretty cool. I'd like to learn a little bit more about them. But anyway, when you look at a pattern like this, typically you get a breakdown. Now, this thing could break over this trend line, and if it does that and starts to hold the moving averages, it could be starting its next leg up. But typically when they go this far, they usually end up with a breakdown, and it's getting super, super close to it right now. Hopefully it does not break down through it, but if you, like I said, if you are a long-term believer in this company, lower prices means cheaper stock for you. If you think this is going to be higher in 5, 6, 7 years, then obviously you want lower prices now. You want the stuff to be on sale so you can load up. But if we go back to the daily chart, let me get this stuff off the chart right now. If it breaks through that support area, I think there's a very strong possibility it's going to come down and test this 200 period simple moving average, which is all the way down there near $1. That would be an enormous drop. I'm not saying it's going to do it in a couple of days, but typically when stocks fail this pattern, they usually end up testing that 200 period simple moving average, and that is a long ways down. So if you want a cheaper stock, you might get a chance to get it really cheap, because Humbl looks like it's got a date with that 200 unless some really exciting news comes out, just a catalyst that can break this pattern and send it to the upside, and that can absolutely happen. But just the way this price action is starting to fade, and if I zoom in just a little bit closer, we can see how weak the volume is really starting to get. So that's actually kind of a double-edged sword. You know, it's not going to take a whole lot of volume to send it higher if it's actually drifting on this little volume, but it's also showing that at least in the short term, you know, some of the excitement has come out of this stock because there isn't that much volume chasing it anymore. But what I wanted to show you was some examples of this pattern and how they usually shape out. Let's jump over to FUV. This was a very hot electric vehicle stock, and actually this is touching the 200 period as I am making this video. So usually when it breaks like a decent looking support area like it did right around $16.62, you know, you end up having a date with the 200 not long after that. Of course, if it's already below these moving averages. Next one is, let's take a look at Solo. I believe Solo did it as well. You can see Solo had a pretty well-defined support area right here around $6 or so. And it was making a little bit of a triangle consolidation pattern as well, but once it broke it, you know, it didn't take long for it to hit it. Of course, the 475-ish was much closer than what Humbl is, so it could take Humbl a little bit longer, and it might not even make it down that far, but I'm just telling you this is typically what happens. Another one I think was ASXC. This one actually hasn't completed yet, but I believe this one also has a date with the 200 period simple moving average, because usually once that support area breaks, the move down tends to accelerate a little bit. Now, I've seen these patterns break down, hit the 200 period simple moving average, and find some strong support and immediately start to take back off again. So just because a stock comes down to the 200 period simple moving average doesn't mean the show is over. It just means once this level of support is broken, usually the next stop is that 200 period simple moving average. Another one that I've had on the channel was CTRM. We can see CTRM was making a very similar pattern, and you know, it had that breakdown below it, and it looks like it's probably going to be touching that 200 period simple moving average before too long. Another one was RWLK. Look at RWLK, it's making the same pattern right now, and I would almost bet money that it's probably going to be hitting that 200 before too long, because it's getting pretty darn close to it. You know, some other stocks that were pretty popular that are making similar patterns, not quite down to the 200 yet. Senseonics, I wouldn't be a bit surprised if Senseonics, you know, has a date with their 200 period simple moving average as well. It's just what typically happens when this pattern ends up breaking. Now, Humbl has not broken yet, so there's no evidence that suggests that it's going to happen because this pattern hasn't broken yet. Just because it's making this pattern, you don't want to trade it before it actually happens, because if it doesn't follow through, then the pattern wasn't valid anyway. But I just wanted to go over their chart real quick and show you guys what I was thinking. If you guys think that there's anything different in that chart pattern, make sure you leave that for me down there in the comment section. I'd like to hear a different point of view. And also, if you did try those ETXs, I would really like to hear about those. If you could leave that down in the comment section, what your experience was with those ETXs, I'd really like to hear about that, because they look pretty cool. All right, well, the first stock I want to talk about today is Intel. We actually traded options on this one in the Patreon group. I bought the 67 call yesterday, anticipating this breakout move right here, and that's exactly what we got. Now, I sold it way early. I actually sold it early on in the day, and I only made about 55% on this call option. If I would have been holding them right now, I'd be up just about a triple. So, just sold a little bit too early, but the way stocks have been moving, they kind of scream higher and then they pull back just as fast, and it was expiring today, so figured I'd better take that profit in case we get that pullback, but we got a pretty decent fade up. And actually, if we go to the minute chart, we can see this is what happened. Had a little bit of a pullback, but then had this screaming move up, and that's when I exited. And I expected more of a pullback, but it's just slowly been drifting up, and those options have been going up ever since. But if we go to the 15-minute chart on this, this is all I was looking at. We had this triangle consolidation pattern happening, and it was putting pressure on this resistance area. And what you want to see is a pop through that, and you usually get a pretty decent move if you get a breakout. And being that these options were expiring today, the options were pretty cheap, so there wasn't a whole lot of risk, but a whole lot of upside. And I did sell a little bit too early, but that's all right. I'll take a 55% gain in one day, any day of the week. But I just wanted to show you that trade. And another stock I wanted to talk about was, it's not really a lower price stock, but it's a stock we are also buying in the Patreon, is Palantir. I'm starting to see a frenzy starting to occur in Palantir, kind of like I saw in Tesla a couple of years ago. It just seems like everybody is jumping on the Palantir bandwagon, and I don't expect these prices to be this low for that long because there's just so much potential in this company. I've been looking into them for many, many weeks, and for someone like me, they're pretty hard to wrap your head around, but the more I look into this company, the more I like it, and I had that same feeling with Tesla a couple of years ago. So I just wanted to share that with you guys. Take a look at Palantir, do some research on them before the stock takes off, because I'm getting a sneaky suspicion that this one could be the next really big winner, especially the way everybody just seems to be piling onto it. So do yourself a favor and take a look at Palantir if you haven't already. But let's get into some of those lower price stocks that are looking pretty good. First one I want to show you is STRM. STRM, Streamline Health Solutions. We can see they are starting to put pressure on this resistance area right here. And since it's holding that 8-period exponential moving average, if it holds it for another day, I wouldn't be a bit surprised if this thing goes exploding through this resistance area. Or if it just breaks through it and holds that holds above this resistance, which will of course will become support once it gets through it. I think there's a good chance it could continue higher if it holds those highs while these moving averages right here catch up to it. So STRM is definitely one worth watching for next week if it can play out the way I just said. Next one is VSTM. VSTM is actually doing exactly what I said the other chart needs to do for it to look bullish. This is actually step number 2. Had a break through that resistance area, got up towards this old high. I still have some of my old drawings on here. But it got up towards that old resistance area, has found resistance. Now it's fading slowly down into that 8-period exponential moving average, that white line on the chart. And if it can hold that white line, that could be the boost that it needs to blast through this resistance area and start its next leg up and get close to these old highs right around $4.50. That would be a good move for VSTM. A lot of these lower price stocks are failing though because they're a little bit out of favor, but some of them that do get going tend to be some pretty explosive moves. But VSTM is looking super good right now. Next one I want to show you is that's a T, YTRA. You can see that YTRA is actually getting ready to blast through this old high. Had a move up yesterday. Today came down right near the 8-period exponential moving average and has been being bought up ever since. So this one is looking very strong. You know, we got a little bit of this triangle consolidation pattern that I like to see. It's putting pressure on the old resistance area, and it's starting to push through it. Now, if this thing can get above $3, this one could be a fast mover, so I'm keeping a sharp eye on YTRA for next week.
All right, guys, well, that's all I have for this video, so I'm going to end it right there. But if you have any questions about any of these stocks, or if you have any other stocks you want me to take a look at, please leave them down there in the comment section. I will get to them as soon as I can. If you enjoyed the video, please hit the like button for the YouTube algorithm and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Thank you so much for watching my video all the way to the end, guys, and until next time, take care.